Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video. This is the game of the 20th century, played by one of the greatest chess players of all time, Bobby Fischer, against one of the best players of the time, Donald Byrne. It is 1956 at the Marshall Chess Club in New York. This was when Bobby Fischer was 13 years old, so you get to see the early genius of Fischer. I would say this is the American game of the century because the Soviets played many fantastic games, but it was dubbed the game of the century. Let's begin. The game starts off with knight f3. This is known as the reedy opening. It's a very flexible opening that usually transposes into another opening. Knight f6 is played by Bobby, and we get c4. So this is transposed into an English opening. Fischer goes g6, trying to fianchetto his bishop on g7, and then castle. And that's what happens. Knight c3, bishop g7, d4, putting another pawn in the center, and castles. So Fischer's king is out of the center. He's gonna just keep developing. Bjorn could put another pawn in the center, but you don't really need pawns in the center to fight for it. Fischer would probably go into a king's Indian with d6. So that isn't, but that it wasn't what was played in the game. Bishop f4 is played, and Fischer plays d5. This transposes into yet another opening that is called the Grunfeld defense. My advice to anyone below 2200, stay away from the Grunfeld. It is one of the most complex openings. It's like on the Roy Lopez Sicilian level complex. Grandmasters do not find good moves in these positions. They struggle with this. I doubt you guys can do any better. So yeah, my stay away from the Grunfeld. Um, so Bjorn goes into what is known as the Russian system with Queen B3. So takes, and Fischer plays C6, saving the pawn because a moment ago the queen and the bishop were staring right at it. So C6, E4, putting another pawn in the center. Knight D7 is a mistake to the engine, but he could be trying to put the knight on b6. Rook d1. The modern day move in this position is to go bishop e2 and try to castle here, but that's not what's played. Rook d1, very still a very good move, and knight b6, attacking the queen, and the queen moves to c5. This is deemed a mistake by the engine, but I don't think it's a bad move at all. What we usually got in this was actually never played before this game. We always got queen b3, bishop e6, and queen c2. This was all that was played in recorded games. But yeah, I don't know, maybe two drunk guys in a bar went and played queen c5. But yeah. So bishop g4, pinning the knight to the rook. Here we get a really odd move from Bjorn, bishop to g5. This is a blunder because his king is right in the center of the board, open to any attack Fischer has. What he should have played is bishop e2, getting ready to castle and just get his king to safety. But bishop g5, and Fischer finds the first brilliant move of the game. Knight to a4. What? Isn't the knight just hanging? If you take, the knight has left the post that guarded this pawn. So Fischer would take, and we probably get queen b4, bishop, knight takes bishop, knight takes, and he takes the rook, and king takes back. That's probably what would have happened if he accepted the sacrifice. And this position is just crushing. You're gonna kick out the knight, and the king is wide open. He can't castle anymore, and just he's gonna get decimated the black position is crushing. So Bjorn avoids all that and goes queen a3, best move, and they trade knights. And because there is no knight to guard this pawn, the knight will take. But this actually opens him up to a fork. Queen and rook. Well, that doesn't really matter. Queen b6, and if you take the rook, my bishop comes back hitting your queen. And if you lazily try to guard this pawn, the knight will sacrifice itself on c3. Because if you take, these bishops are laser beams. You're getting destroyed. This crosspin is just so powerful, and you're losing a queen no matter what happens. But again, he avoids taking the rook and develops his bishop, looking to castle. Fischer finds another brilliant move. Knight takes c3. Another knight sacrifice. He's just taking his knights and chucking them at his opponent. Because if you take the knight, Fischer will pin you with his a rook. The queen would probably come back and try to guard, and you would get bishop takes and pawn takes back. And these are called pawn islands. Don't never want these. They're really bad pawn structures. Fischer would go queen c7 and castles, and this. Fischer's position, even though he's only a pawn up, this is crushing. You're not coming back from this, because your king is, even though he's off to the side of the board, he is wide open again. So Bjorn avoids all this by playing this, attacking the queen. Now Fischer uncorks possibly the move of the century. After this, I'm sorry, after this, rook e8 check, king to f1, and now this is the move. If this was the game of the century, this is the move of the century. Okay? So you can pause here and try to find the brilliant move, but I'm telling you, it's not moving the queen. You're not gonna find it by moving the queen. Okay. The brilliant move in this position is bishop to e6, completely disregarding the threat on the queen. And you cannot take the bishop, because then you leave this diagonal, allowing me to give this check to the king. The top engine move is actually to sacrifice your bishop, and your king can never go to f1 because of this checkmate. But here, 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 double check with the knight and the queen. Here, and a stunning, smothered checkmate. And knight to e2 is mate. And you'll see, in the actual game, the queen was taken. And bishop takes with check, king moves over, knight knight to e2 check, and you actually have a windmill, because wherever the knight moves, like say here for example, you will always have the check from the bishop, and your king can never run here because of the rook. So he takes the pawn, comes back, and he goes back to c3, and Calm takes the bishop. Queen attacks his light squared bishop. He doesn't even take the rook. He wants all his pieces guarded. Takes the pawn, and finally he takes the rook. So Bobby is up 3 points of material despite not having a queen, which Bjorn does have. So pawn h3, trying to create an escape square for the king to run to. Um, Rook takes pawn, king there, knight snatched a pawn, and these pawns are just being picked up like candy on Halloween, right? And I'm a kid, so I know this. I know firsthand how it is. So yeah. Um, he actually proposes a rook trade. I don't think Bjorn should have done this, and Bobby, great move, taking it. So the simplification is really, really beneficial to Bobby because Bjorn had good attacking pieces, or rather useful attacking pieces, and he just traded off one of them for Bobby's many, many soldiers. So Bishop comes back, taking a nice long diagonal. At this point, he could continue simplifying with this move, but he chooses to bring the knight back, and the and his b pawn jumps to avoid capture. Bjorn tries to create counterplay on the king side, but shut down immediately. And the knight jumps. King g7, unpinning the bishop, and king to g1 rather allows Fischer to develop his bishop with a check. This bishop did not move for like 35 moves. So yeah, finally. And Bjorn blunders here. Because this allows forced checkmate. Every single move from here on out that Bobby makes leads to forced checkmate, and there is nothing Bjorn can do about it. Check here, check here, check here, check here, check here. And there's two possible checkmates here. There's this one with a nice bishop pair. This is beautiful. But Bobby chooses to play rook c2, checkmate. This was an amazing win because this was a 13-year-old against one of the best players in America at the time. Also, he wasn't having a very good tournament at the Marshall Chess Club, and this was really boosted his confidence. And Bobby went on to become one of the best players in chess history. If you like the game, like and subscribe. Comment which famous game I should review next. If this video gets 5 new subscribers, I will take 3 people's games from the comments and feature them on Guess the ELO. If you want your game featured, post the link in the comments. That's all I have to say. Get out of here.